said you don't touch Israel. Why?
So see, to even make a critique,
Yeah.
to make a critique, you walk up immediately to the edge of
Everything.
being considered anti-Zionist or something.
Anti-Semitic now.
Anti-Semitic.
Yeah. No, see, anti-Zionist, I'm fine with being called that, right?
Yeah,
Like I don't necessarily identify as an anti-Zionist because, like, I would love Israel to have its own state. I don't necessarily think that its own state should be in Palestinian territory because Palestine's existed for a long time, and by our own standards in the world, where America comes over here, dominates.
Yeah.
You know, we're a state, right? And we have no issue calling ourselves a state.
Yeah.
But then Palestine's been around for longer than that.
Yeah.
And then because of the war, UK goes, here, we're going to give you a section of Palestine.
Yeah.
And then the Palestinians are like, what? What? And then not only that, it's transgressed way past that point to where Israel is continuing to encroach and continue to push. And this isn't even referring to what's happening in Gaza yet. Like, this has been happening for the past 50 years. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how to ignore it.
Well, here's my... So... Part of the human experience is about suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a human being, then there's not a tribe, a society, a nation that has not experienced suffering at the hands of some other person, tribe, or society or nation.
Right.
I am perplexed how one group of people who are of an ethnicity and have one of the world's oldest religions, they can experience something, and holidays are about it, museums go up about it, you know. In Germany, there's, Auschwitz is still, it's a museum basically, you know. It's crazy. Terrible thing that happened in the 20th century. Terrible. And nobody would ever think, well, I'm sure there are, would say, get over it.
Right.
The people I belong to, phenotypically, physically, are told to get over it. Slavery was ended in, why don't you do better now, and all those kind of things, right? Now, I'm not using that as a justification for the problems that are going on today. But what I'm saying is, you have two different groups of people, one who went through a Holocaust, one who went, I would argue, through a Holocaust at greater numbers, right?
Yeah.
Transatlantic slave trade. One is told to get over it. The other is told, well, I'm told to get over it, and it's not, well, you're being considered anti-black or anti-black American. But as soon as you would have uttered something, get over the Holocaust. That was in the 20th century. You're anti-Semitic. Why is that?
Well,
I'm just asking.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that's always been in my mind, that this is actually the first time I've actually verbalized it.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand it.
The term anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism has evolved, and there is now legislation. I'm trying to remember where I'm blanking on where it's at. But there is legislation somewhere right now, either a state or maybe a different country, I'm not sure, that is trying to redefine anti-Semitism.
Oh, really?
To include basically criticism of the Israel state, like the government. And that's the problem, right? So we got Candace Owens, we got people like that, Tucker Carlson, and a vast number of people who were, avid conservatives who are now being blacklisted by the conservatives, by Trump, and by people that used to work with Trump as anti-Semites because they are criticizing what Israel, the state, is doing. they're not saying that Jewish blood is evil.
Mm-hmm.
They're not saying that there's some giant conspiracy that it's all the Jews are in on.
Mm-hmm.
But they're automatically labeled as anti-Semitic. As a matter of fact, the ex-ambassador to Israel that was under Trump, the first term, I believe it was on camera, and he said, in reference to Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and the like, that they should be jailed or deported, right? So we have an official speaking about deporting or jailing American citizens for speaking, which is insane because it's the exact opposite of what Trump ran on, which is freedom of speech and all this sort of stuff. We have tons of students being deported for being part of pro-Palestinian rallies. And the argumentation is that they or someone in the rally was holding a pro-Hamas sign. And I'm like, okay, if they were holding a pro-Hamas sign themselves, I can kind of see where you might be like, you know what, that's very anti-American. But to group anyone that you want to use as an example and deport into all the other people, because it's like you go to BLM protest and there were some people holding signs that were like awful,
right?
And there were some people holding signs that were like, no, that's a reasonable request, right? So it's ridiculous to think that because there's a mass of people that everybody identifies with everybody else there, and that it's not more of a general grievance that everyone kind of has against something that's happening. What really bothers me is how much you and I both know right now we feel the pressure of tiptoeing because of the fear of being labeled and being viewed as an anti-Semite. Whereas, especially now in this day and age, even though racism is still a thing where we're still very, like, it's still touchy, but people are a lot more willing to speak directly and openly about, issues with, people keeping slavery around in their heads and all this different stuff. You made the comparison between African Americans and their struggle and their history and the Jews, but the reason that breaks down in my mind is that it's the people in America are kind of blaming the ancestors of the slaveholders and the people that stood by and allowed it to happen. And so there's this grievance, right? I can kind of understand it, although I don't agree. And I think that's
a more recent development. Of categorizing because you belong to one ethnic group, then you should apologize for the transgressions of those that look like you, which I don't agree with. But I think that's more of a recent development than the older objection or retort of, why don't y'all get over it? And I'm like, I'm fine to get over it, but will you tell that other group to get over it? Will you tell the Native Americans to get over it? Why is this one group exempt from being told to get over it? Well, and not only that, to say to get over it, the charge of anti-Semitism could be leveled against you. Even as another comparison, right? So in the current administration, you've got what they're doing at Harvard. They pulled back their $2 billion tax money that's going to them, which I don't know why Harvard's getting that much money in the first place. We'll set that aside. But the reason they're doing that is because of the whole toleration of possible anti-Semitic type messages and stuff on campus. But at the same time, and I don't agree with this, DEI policies, if universities maintain those, they're getting their funding pool. But the DEI policies are argued to benefit, let's be real, non-white individuals, right? In terms of admissions, employment, and the like. So again, it appears on its face, there's a favoritism for one group of people, right? If y'all stop doing this, we'll let you keep the $2 billion, right? But if y'all keep maintaining this policy and have these departments in place that put forward DEI type policies, we're going to pull your money. Again, it looks like Once you get over it, y'all can just keep lamenting that the whole world is trying to annihilate you, which now that's a whole different discussion.
Well, let's say that you did agree, like hypothetically, let's say we agreed that people shouldn't get over it. Let's say that like the grievances are there and we should dwell on them and we should we should all of the things, reprobations and all this different stuff, right?
Yeah.
So again, back to Israel, the problem is it's not like they're slaughtering Germans.
No,
they're
not.
slaughtering people that had nothing to do with their oppression in the Holocaust, but they continue to use the Holocaust as their victim card. And for me, that really, really boggles my mind because it's like, okay, we get it. The whole world collectively is condemned what happened. We don't like that. That's bad. That's wrong, right? But you're using that victimization that you've continued to use ever since as a excuse to do the same kind of thing
that was done
to someone else who wasn't even the ancestors.
Right.
Or the descendants
right.
of the people who did this to you. So it's like, where do you get off? And then like you got UN Council and people in the UN Council speaking out about this issue. And so I was talking to ChatGPT this morning and I was like, you know what? Because again, it's very politically correct for the most part, but you can still get honest answers out of it. And so I'm like, basically what's going on here with this whole Jewish Gaza thing? Like, isn't this genocide? And it's like, well, it hasn't been classified genocide by the courts. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to tell me. I'm not asking you to tell me what the courts which can be easily corrupted. I'm telling you to tell me the definition, and it gave me the definition, and then I'm like, okay, by that definition, is it genocide? And it's like, it sure as hell looks like it. That's its quote. Like, it sure as hell looks like a genocide. And I'm like, okay, so if an AI, which is ran by a Jewish guy, and is extremely like built to be politically correct to a certain degree, we all know it.
Yeah.
Can admit this, then what's going on in the world where the UN and all these different councils who are continually presented with the evidence of ridiculous war crimes is just turning a blind eye over and over and over? It's like this one guy who is, I think it was in the UN Council, he was testifying and he was like, is there another set of laws for Israel than the rest of the world? Like, do they get a pass on all the different rules that we have to abide by? And there's no response because no one can possibly reply without, admitting that it's true. And that's essentially what's happened. And it's like, what do you do with that as a society, as people, right? And so that brings us into like kind of the topic, the thing that I was wrestling with, and I was talking to some friends today or this week about. I was like, what do we do? And they're like, what can we do? There's nothing we can do. We can't go on a plane. We're not going to go over there and fight. We're not going to, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
What can be done? And I'm like, but society and history and literature has told us for all of our lives since we were little children about these heroes and these heroines who throughout history sacrificed what they had and the comforts of what they had to fight a greater good when they saw an injustice in the world. And it's like we've been taught over and over and over that this is a good, right? This is morally good and these people are heroes. And yet people around the world and the country are kind of sitting on their toes or sitting on their hands kind of going, I can't do anything. And I'm like, well, there's got to be something that we can do. I'm not saying that we should all get up and go to war, but to say you can't do anything in this world of information or age of information seems really lazy to me. And
I think it's, I think what excited me about when you sent this to me talking about it is every year I do a lecture at the university here in town, and I talk about how you are not designed, created, you have not evolved to solve every problem.
Right.
You're not. you don't have the capacity. You're not capable.
Mm-hmm.
We're not built to take in all this information, either visually,
Right.
through our ears. Because if you tried, you would just be overwhelmed. I even think there's studies because of the amount of information that comes in, the impact it has on people's mental health.
Oh yeah.
Because of social media and every app that you get, whether it's through X, Facebook, Instagram has some news, or however you get your information, it's just coming at you, and then the phone is set up in such a way to notify you, to keep drawing you back and you start seeing now videos of people like being abused, or somebody's put a picture of some kid that's in a hospital, or something that's happening in Gaza or in Syria or in Ukraine or anything like that. And then somebody in the local town is like, ooh, there's a homeless person on the street. We're supposed to help him. And you're like,
right.
Right? And then, am I supposed to solve everything?
Right. And so it comes down to like, what do you choose to, like, the classic adage, choose your battles wisely.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's like, so I asked GPT to kind of like formulate the two sides of this, because on the one hand, Jordan Peterson's adage of like, set your house in order before you go about criticizing the world.
Yes.
That feels so strong and so like, it summarizes this ethic or ethos that you can really like, hang your coat on and be like, all right, okay, I need to focus on my own household.
Yeah.
Great, right? But then we look at people like Martin Luther King, and we look at people who throughout history, not only did they set aside some of their duties as, father, husband, and all these different things, and then as a result accomplished great things in, whatever battle they were fighting. I mean, there's a lot of examples of people who, were unfaithful to their spouse while accomplishing insanely great feats for social justice or whatever. And so it's like, okay, obviously that's not good, but at the same time, we like kind of raise these people up on a pedestal, and where's the balance between going, there is more outside of your own home, and you can't wait till your own home is perfectly in order before you go about
you're not going to be able
the world.
to.
Exactly, because of sin. And so a lot of Peterson's ethos rotates around kind of this, I won't call it work salvation, but kind of this mentality of like, you can achieve this point of good where you're kind of at that point where you are pursuing the highest goal. And for me, especially as a Reformed person, who I think we have a deeper understanding sometimes of our depravity, or a deeper appreciation for our depravity, so to speak, not appreciation in a positive, but understanding of. I don't ever see that as ever happening. I don't ever see me as ever getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, my house is in order.
Right.
And so I'm still like stuck in this place of like, yeah, I get that concept, but at the same time, I can't wait till all of my kids behave perfectly and my life is perfect and everything's organized before
I don't even think you can pull that from Scripture if if you maintain the sanctification doctrine versus what's the alternative? Immediate
justification.
That there's some theological positions that once you're justified, the sanctification is solid as well. But even the Scripture, I think it's pretty clear that looking at especially the writings of Paul, that there is this tension that is happening of you got to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, right? Yeah. While at the same time being called out to go forward and do whatever God has called you to do in the body of Christ, right? So, so get your own house in order, while at the same time, as you're getting your house in order, and there are some things you still need to dust and sweep away from, you're being called also when you step out your home, there's that piece of trash there, or there is that individual there that is hungry. And hopefully whatever the work that you're doing, that small good that you're doing inside of your home leads you to even more goods outside of your home, which is calling you up to the greater good, over time. I think, just with all the information, it can paralyze people to do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's one extreme. Or it can lead to another extreme of you believing that it's all on me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to go out here and fix everything,
Mm-hmm.
attempt to fix everything, and be crushed.
Mm-hmm.
So in those two extremes of all this information, fear or pride that leads to me, being destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And then in either case, I'm not a benefit to my home nor to the society
Mm-hmm.
at all. So what do I do with that information? That's the thing.
Right.
What do I do with that information? Because it is coming at me. Then I got to ask myself, well, who am I? Like, what are my giftings or skills?
Mm-hmm.
What are my talents? What are those things that make me feel alive
Mm-hmm.
and that draw me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And does that align with this problem that I see?
Yeah.
That's where I should be.
It's like Peterson talks about he also talks about aiming high, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like setting your goals essentially at the highest.
Yeah.
And aiming there.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, it's like I get the concept of setting your house in order, and that is definitely one of the highest goals you can have. But I think that for someone who is living somewhat of an ordered life and they have some set of, like, they know who they are, they kind of know what they're about. I think that it is not it's not an obligation, because again, everyone's called to something different. I'm not out here going, oh, everyone needs to be talking about this thing. I hate it when people take their pet issue and go, this is the only thing everyone needs to talk about. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for me, there's been multiple times in my life where something really gripped me, and I was like, this is what I really want to focus on, and what I really want to work towards. And it's not like, shaming other people for not doing the same thing, but it's more so like, how do I do it, right? Like, how do I make this a big deal in my community, so that people can be aware and also see what I see, without making people then feel guilty because they're not seeing it the way I see it, or they're not acting in the way that I'm acting. Because of it, right? And there's a balance, right? There has to be. And if in my mind, as a Christian, I think that once the balance or the scales tip to where you're putting your family and your home life, your duties that you're first called to the wayside, if you're setting those aside and you're focusing on these other things to their peril, then you've automatically gone too far, right? The scales are not balanced anymore. And I think that there's tons of people who we respect in history who did that, and we see what they did, but we don't see the suffering their family went through, and we don't see the fact that we are not just made up of the world that we see, but also the eternity that comes after, right? And God doesn't judge everything through our lenses that we judge everything through, but with Israel and what's happening there, it's like, and again, this isn't new, right? There's been atrocities in Africa and atrocities around the world that don't even get talked about hardly.
Exactly.
Because it's not even one that we care about.
Right.
Which is to our shame.
Yeah.
But it is truth, right? It is unfortunate that there's slaughters right now happening in between the two tribes or two groups in Africa. I can't remember the names right now.
Back in the day, it was
they've been battling for a long time, but just
Rwanda's
recently,
Tutsis.
Yes, they are. There's another slaughter that's been happening recently. Yes, and no one's talking about really. Like, it's just, it's not the right part of the earth.
Exactly.
And which is mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
And the only reason it's not the right part of the earth is probably because there's not enough oil there. They found out about that Gaza had a plethora of natural gas. I think it was around 6 months before the October 7th attacks.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into a great deal of conspiracy with all of this. I do believe that it's worthwhile to have that discussion, but I've decided that what my goal will be is to create a comprehensive look at all of these things that are being discussed by Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and all these different people who are out here kind of shedding light on these topics that have been lost. But I'm gonna speed reel through just a few off the top of my head, because I think that it's important that that there's a certain level of like questioning that kind of everyone in America and around the world should start kind of asking themselves, because like we started this podcast and I'm like, why don't you want to criticize Israel? And there's something we have been psychologically.
I ain't scratched the surface, man. But go ahead.
Yeah, but like that's the point. Like we have been engineered, it seems, socially engineered with certain topics and certain groups that are protected in our minds, and it's absurd to ask questions in this society. Like it's considered anathema. It's considered a horrible thing to do. But we have. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I'm just going to spitball through random things that I've been reading about. And again, I'm not looking this up and finding these fringe sources. I'm using ChatGPT.
Okay.
Because I think it's a great source to kind of, if you prod it a little bit, it will give you it'll give you the true answer, and it'll look up it'll know where you're going with it, sort of. And so I asked it one question. I don't remember exactly what the question was, but it was like, I won't respond because it sounds like you're being anti-Semitic.
Did it really say that?
Yeah. And then I rephrased the question, because I was like, no, I'm not saying anything about their blood. I'm not saying anything about the Jews as a whole. I'm saying the Israeli government, like, or
why would ChatGPT even care?
Right. Well, so it's very politically correct, and so it's got very strong boundaries on certain things.
Really?
But what's funny is if you push a little bit, it's not hard to break the walls.
Okay.
It's really strange how flimsy they are. And people have found this on a lot of different things with ChatGPT. Like, for example, I was like watching this video on Instagram, and I was like, I heard about the 5 dancing Israelis after 9/11, but I was like, I used to be a 9/11 like, so
not familiar with
it's really important. I may have said this last time, but I want to be clear. I was an ultra conservative, wanted to go to the Navy SEALs, wanted to fight for my country, to kill all the terrorists that did 9/11.
Bro, you should have came on. I was in there already.
Yeah. So that was me though. That was where my heart was.
Okay.
And so I'm not like, I wasn't raised in this like mentality. I wasn't even raised liberal where I just like hated, war or whatever.
Yeah.
As if liberals actually hate war. But I started to research 9/11 because it was the catalyst that kind of made me interested and made me want to fight. And then I started kind of going, there's a lot of questions here. And so I started pushing a little bit. And I remember reading when I was like 16 and 17 years old, because I was doing a report on 9/11, and all my classmates at the co-op I went to all like laughed at me, right? Because it was like a report on 9/11, and it was kind of raising questions. And it wasn't, the mainstream story. And but I ignored the 5 dancing Israelis. And then I see this reel this past week, and I was like, let me look this up. And so I get on ChatGPT. I'm like, I didn't say anything. I just said 5 dancing Israelis. I didn't like push it in a direction. I said 5 dancing Israelis, and it was like, yes, that's a real thing. Blah blah blah, and it just lines it out. So there was five Israelis that were on the rooftop filming 9/11 happening with a camcorder, and they were dancing and high fiving. And this lady thought they were Middle Easterners, and so she's like, terrorist attacks happening, Middle Easterners dancing, filming the action. So she calls the cops. Cops arrest them. They find box cutters, massive passports, and a massive cash in their van. And they arrest these people for 73 days.
Okay.
Right? And they did lie detector tests. The FBI got involved. They did lie detector tests. They failed the lie detector tests. And then when they went back to Israel, they were on a show, and they said that their reason for being there was to document the event. They failed the lie detector tests. They get deported to Israel, and nothing else is ever heard of them. Like, we don't push it at all, right? Months before 9/11 happened, a host of Israeli students were arrested in federal buildings. This, again, is not me. I looked it up. I asked Chat. This is everything that I speak about. I speak of that ChatGPT said, because it's a little bit like, it's like, okay, it's gathered this information. It's not a conspiracy AI. It's not even inclined to be conspiratorial. But it's like, yeah, that happened. There were a mass of students that were Israeli that were arrested that had links to Mossad, and they were arrested a few months before 9/11. And then you got shoot, what's his name? Let me look it up real quick. The guy who leased the World Trade Centers. um, his name was Silverstein, and he leased the World Trade Center complex, the entire thing. I think it was about 6 weeks before 9/11 or 4 weeks before 9/11.
Okay.
And then he got insurance for terrorist attacks, specifically for terrorist attacks.
What?
I'm not making this up. And so again, you can look it up, Silverstein, and he
like
always
there's like a whole video.
Yeah, he always had. Hold on, actually, I'll show you this.
Oh, you're in conspiracy theory circles.
I'm trying to not, because again, the word conspiracy has brought so much negative scorn.
Yeah, ADL calls it an anti-Semitic conspiracy.
Which one? About the five dancing Israelis?
Yeah,
it's just a fact. I didn't say anything about that.
I'll just say
I didn't say anything.
The link that shows up, like.
That's funny though, because I literally didn't say anything in regards to what I was claiming. I was just making observations.
Wait, it's AI generated. What?
Oh, the photos AI generated. Yeah. So here's the funny thing, right? So the photo that people use to, like, when they're like telling about the story, they clearly, and no one even claims that the photo is real. The photo is never real.
Uh-huh.
The lady is in a documentary. Like she called the cops. This is all documented.
Yeah.
Right. Like, watch this. I'll just do it this way.
See, we're
five
trying to
dancing
be
Israelis.
See, we've been told we need to be funny. See,
Yeah.
every topic is just, how can this be funny? I'm looking at the camera. I'm looking at y'all.
I mean, all right, so this is AI.
The phrase five dancing Israelis refers to a controversial and widely circulated conspiracy theory related to the 9/11 attacks. Here's the core of the factual account and where speculation enters. What actually happened? On September 11, 2001, 5 men, Israeli nationals, were detained by law enforcement after witnesses reported them behaving suspiciously, including allegedly filming and appearing to celebrate as the Twin Towers burned. The FBI investigated them, and they were held for several weeks on immigration violations, and after extensive questioning, they were deported to Israel. The incident was briefly covered in mainstream media, including outlets like the New York Times and ABC News. What's speculated or misrepresented? Some conspiracy theorists claim the men were Mossad agents and suggest foreknowledge or involvement in the attacks, but no credible evidence has supported this. US officials and the 9/11 Commission found no evidence of Israeli involvement in the 9/11 attacks. Bottom line, yes, 5 Israelis were detained after 9/11 under suspicion, but claims about them celebrating the attacks or being involved are heavily disputed, with no hard evidence backing those theories. It's a topic that's often used in anti-Semitic or misleading contexts online. Would you like a breakdown of the FBI?
So, tell me, did they hold on, go through lie detector tests? And how long were they held exactly? And did they have any connection to Mossad whatsoever?
Yes, the 5 Israeli men detained after 9/11 were subjected to polygraph tests and held for over 2 months. One of them, Paul Kurtzberg, initially refused to take the test for 10 weeks and later failed it. The others passed their polygraphs, and no evidence was found linking any of them to prior knowledge of the attacks. Regarding connections to Mossad, the FBI investigated the possibility that the men were Israeli intelligence operatives. While some reports suggested that 2 of the men were Mossad agents, the FBI ultimately concluded that the 5 Israelis had no foreknowledge of the attacks.
So they didn't find that they weren't Mossad agents. That I've researched this heavily, and there was 2 of them that were linked to Mossad.
Yeah.
This is concrete evidence. They were linked. They had connections to Mossad. The FBI never concluded one way or the other. They said that it was classified, basically, and then they deported them. And that's just one example, right? And
why would they deport them though?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Right. And when they were in Israel afterwards, they did an interview, and that's when one of them said that we were there to document the event, which again is one of the main reasons that the conspiracy theorists were like, how are you there to document an event that you don't know anything about?
Yeah, they just happened to be on the roof at that time.
And the woman got her binoculars, and she was looking at them and stuff, and she's been interviewed multiple times, and she says they were dancing. She thought they were Middle Easterners, and so she called the cops. The cops arrested them, held them, and again, you don't hold people for 73 days, and without reason, without some cause. And the FBI got involved, and when the FBI got involved, then they were deported. And then you go back to, again, I'm spitballing here. I'm not even connecting any dots. I'm just saying there's so many things that are unanswered in regards to this stuff. You go back to JFK, way back, right? JFK, what was he doing? He was researching, or not researching. He was pushing for investigations into Israel's nuclear development. Because they were saying it was for energy, and he was concerned that it could be for weapons, and so he was wanting to investigate. They were extremely resistant to this, and then they set up a very, again, this is ChatGPT's way of describing it, set up a very staged investigation where they came over and showed what they wanted to show, basically, and then JFK was killed, and Lyndon took over, and he stopped all investigations of nuclear plans. And then the JFK files come out, and what's redacted? Mossad. Throughout the documents, Mossad has been redacted. And so it's like, okay, what's going on here? And then you go a step further, and I don't know if you know what AIPAC is. It is a Israeli lobbyist, a pro-Israel lobbyist group, and it was created the year that JFK was killed. And ever since, it has grown exponentially, so much so, I'm sure you know who Thomas Massey is. Thomas Massey was doing an interview, a podcast a few weeks back, and he said, it is just a well-known thing that everyone in Congress has an AIPAC guy that they go get coffee with whenever legislation comes across their desk.
Wow.
And I'm like, why is this not mainstream headline news? We have a foreign government who has a lobbyist group that is extremely heavily funded, that funds state elections, like is involved in state elections, federal elections.
You're talking about Russia?
No, AIPAC.
No, you're talking about Russia.
Right. Exactly. If it was Russia or China,
everybody would lose their lunch. Yeah.
What's crazy to me is we have a country who is right now committing genocide by the definition of genocide, who is slaughtering women and children.
And you're standing by the claim.
By the claim that
the government of Israel is conducting genocide on
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah.
Woo!
Yes. Israel is 100% committing genocide. Whenever they've been asked, if one interview was ironically with the woman that Israel chose for the Nobel Peace Prize. There was an interview conducted with her, and when she was done describing kind of what they wanted to do by pushing the Palestinians out, the lady said, "This sounds like ethnic cleansing," and she said her response was, and I quote, "You can call it what you want."
Let me ask you this, because here's my second thing. Is it religiously motivated? Is there something that rolls underneath? Like, why is America so in bed with Israel?
Yeah, so the Zionist movement was pushed heavily in the beginning by an atheist Jew.
Is this 1948 when the Reconstitution?
Yes, it was close. I think it was a little bit after that. I don't remember his name, and so we're just going to have to, I'll try to find it at some other point, and maybe I can post it on the Facebook page if I decide to, commit suicide on the podcast. But this guy was a atheist Jew, but his claim was that God had promised Israel the land. And so
the age-old
it
claim.
makes no sense because he was an atheist, right? And so the Zionist movement is this mixture of what seems to be people seeking power, using the promises of God as a excuse to take that power.
And I think that's what conservatives do in America.
Absolutely.
They continually appeal to Old Testament texts to justify October 7th?
Right.
Is that when it happened? Any of these events that have happened against Israel, I can, if I had $1 for every conservative that's about to post some Old Testament text related to Israel, right? And then I get confused because, so this is where we start verging from the political into the theological as to, well, the Jewish state, political state, that's not God's chosen people. I don't even think you can make an argument from Scripture. If you move from...
No, you can't.
If you move from God calling them, or excuse me, God's call to Abraham all the way through Egypt to the Exodus, there's God's people, and then he breaks it when Assyria takes away northern Israel, then Babylon comes and takes away the rest of Israel. It's broken at that point.
Well, I mean, God said, I will file a petition of divorce. People ignore all that.
Yeah.
So a few things. Go ahead.
But I guess what I'm saying is, people keep making this claim that it seems like they mix it up. The political state of Israel and the religion is just mixed into one. And all of our foreign policy is we got to support Israel. And I'm like, why?
Right. So this is bipartisan. This is what's really fascinating. I told my mom the other day, because she's very pro-Israel to a certain degree, or she used to be. And I was like, you should be paying attention to the fact that Justin Trudeau and Kamala Harris and all of these people who you're against are pro-Israel. And then the people you're for are pro-Israel. You should be very suspicious. Not only that, you have both sides saying that if you're speaking out against this, what Israel's doing, you're anti-Semitic. So in general, history has taught us that the person you can't criticize is the person in control. And so it's like all these things are pointing to one thing, right? The October 7th attacks are fascinating because this blew my mind. Probably one of the things that blew my mind more than anything. I just asked GPT, was there significant evidence or not that the Israeli government knew about October 7th beforehand?
Yes, there's substantial evidence that Israeli intelligence agencies had prior knowledge of Hamas's plans for the October 7th, 2023 attack.
It is. Now, of course, it's going to go on and try to basically be like, yes, but like there was issues with them acting and they had this problem or whatever, like, but the evidence or the very fact that the response is yes to substantial evidence, and the fact that that's not mainstream news is a huge red flag. If the same thing had happened with 9/11, you know, like for example,
well, the argument was made that the government knew 9/11 was going to happen.
Right.
The government knew that Pearl Harbor was going to happen.
There's
all
evidence for that.
Pretext for. And
again, this pretext, these things happening, is literally documented in history over and over and over, where governments will allow things to happen or even incite things to happen.
Right.
Winston Churchill was quoted saying something along the lines of, "America won't get involved in the war, but if our cities are bombed." This is while Germany was refusing to bomb cities; they were only bombing like ports and strategic locations because they were hoping to get Britain to fold. So what did Winston Churchill do? He went and bombed Berlin, and then Germany reacted, and that was Winston Churchill's goal. In that, theoretically, and this is historians' opinions, was to get America involved, right? So political leaders, people in power, have been documented throughout history using the casualty of mass civilians, even if it's their own civilians, if it means furthering their goals.
Right.
Now, people will claim that Winston Churchill's goal was good in the long term. He was using the casualties of his people and the damage to his city to kind of instigate something that would then result in ending the war, because he knew if America got involved, the war would be a lot easier to win.
Yeah.
But we have this evidence historically, but still, if you question it or if you push these narratives at all and ask questions, you're labeled a conspiracy theorist and you're crazy. And again, it's like George W. Bush, whenever the 9/11 conspiracy started coming out, he was like, we will not tolerate it.
Mm-hmm.
That mentality to me is tyrannical.
I think conspiracy theories are the real critiques against government action.
Yeah,
because somewhere in there is the actual truth. Yeah,
and we said it last time. Yeah. The whole thing about conspiracy theories is this ideology that says, well, no, the government wouldn't do that. but then you ask, but who would do it? Well, the terrorists would do it. Well, who are the terrorists? They're individual people.
Yeah.
What's the government? Individual people.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that the people that have power, that have, and that philosophy has told us throughout history that power corrupts.
Yeah.
So you're telling me those people wouldn't do this.
Right.
But these people over here would.
Yeah.
It's absurd, right?
Yeah.
And so here's another fun fact. Osama bin Laden was on the actual website when he was wanted. Mm-hmm. He was not wanted for 9/11. Nothing to do with 9/11 at all. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, there has been no evidence given whatsoever, and it's been verified by official sources now, that Osama bin Laden was not wanted for 9/11. But that was the narrative that was pushed. Mm-hmm. We were told it was Osama bin Laden, right? And so again and again and again, we see these things coming out, and conspiracies keep proving to be true. I mean, I remember it was before my time, but I remember reading about the conspiracies about this CIA operation in I think it was South America, but it was considered absurd. It was like, no, the CIA would never do that. Like, all these people died. I think it was a regime change or something. Mm-hmm. And then come to find out, the government officially, finally, after it's not a big deal anymore, they'll verify it and say, yeah, we did do that.
Yeah.
But no one cares anymore because it's in the past. Mm-hmm. We have this like weird system, and it's been kind of programmed into us for so long, and it's so programmed that even the people who are conservative, who are pro asking questions, when certain questions are asked, like whether it's to do with Israel or certain events, there's this cringy feeling that they, like, I've seen it, I've talked to people, and they kind of get this uncomfortable feeling. They're like, I don't want to talk about that, basically. Mm-hmm. It's like, why is that? That's really, that you should be asking yourself what's going on within yourself and your psychology to make you feel that way about asking these questions. Because if I was asking questions about terrorists, no problem. Right? If I was asking questions about, if I had a conspiracy theory about Democrats, the Republicans would be all about it.
Yeah.
They have no problem with it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you're touching the holy state of Israel, I say that sarcastically.
Right.
You've transcended into, or you've transgressed into this
you've
zone
moved into a whole different...
and it's really weird. It's strange, and just for that reason alone, I am digging. And so my goal is, because like I said earlier, like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, what do I do? I'm a video editor. I'm a video creator. Like, that's what I do. I own a video production company. And I'm like, I could easily clip all the things and all the evidence and stuff into one thing and create one video that's comprehensive, that isn't fringe sources.
Yeah.
Because I was watching something the other day, and it was like just clips of actual news broadcasts, because this was before the narrative had been set. And so they were talking about the dancing Israelis. They were talking about these people that were arrested and these really weird things that were happening, because it was happening in real time.
Yeah.
They didn't know. There's the national broadcast where the lady, this is not fake. There was a national broadcast where the lady was standing in front of the World Trade Center 7 building, mm-hmm. and talking about it collapsing. And it hadn't collapsed. It was behind her standing.
It was a news lady?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, of course, World Trade Center 7, which is still not widely known about, the third building that fell on that day. No one knows about it. No one hardly hears about it.
Yeah.
But this building fell at free-for-all speed, and tons and tons of people were like, this is controlled demolition. This is literally controlled demolition, no doubt. Professional controlled demolition. Engineers. Tons, and I think the number is around 2,000 or 3,000 engineers, architects, and professionals like signed a petition saying
So
this is all garbage, right? I read the official report when I did the report for school, and I was like, as a teenager, I read it, and I was like, this is clearly just garbage. Like, there's nothing about that's systematic, that's thorough. There was tons of questions that were not addressed. The reason I bring up 9/11 specifically and JFK is I believe that these massive moments in our history shifted everything for our society. Because think about 9/11. 9/11 was the thing that ushered in Patriot Act, ushered in NDAA, ushered in all these huge infringements on our liberty and rights. And Americans accepted it based on the need for security. JFK's assassination ushered in a new era of politics. I mean, Tucker Carlson believes that Nixon was the domino that started it all, basically. That Nixon was framed, and that he was actually standing up to a lot of the powers that be, and so they framed him. And looking back on it, it's fascinating to me that Nixon was framed, and that basically we vilify him as a culture in society because he wiretapped phones of American citizens. And then you fast forward, and you have Edward Snowden revealing that
the government is
all wiretapped
now.
And Obama remained in office.
Yeah.
And no one of any significant rapport, other than the people like Rand Paul and a few fringe people, were calling for something to seriously be done about that.
Yeah.
And most of the people even that were calling for that were just calling for it to stop. They weren't calling for him to resign. Nixon was out.
Yeah.
They twisted it. They spun the story so well that he had no choice but to resign or to be impeached. And what's even crazier is Nixon's election. He won by a vast landslide. I don't know if you've ever seen the map of it, but it's like red. The entire thing is red. It was a massive landslide. He was one of the most beloved presidents at the time to ever take office. And then they turned. It's insane to think about the fact that people turned on him because the media worked this. And again, I'm not saying he's framed. I'm just saying Tucker Carlson, who I respect a little bit, I think he does a decent job of not pushing narratives that are really far out. Like he'll die on this hill. Like he talks about Nixon and this whole thing about this basically conspiracy where the CIA and the FBI and the powers that be basically took over the U.S. government at that point and have never relinquished it from then, and that they've been controlling things ever since. Now, that sounds so grand, such a sophisticated conspiracy. Like, the truth is, most of the time, what actually is the case is that it's something like that mixed with a lot of different agendas. Right? But that doesn't change the fact that the narrative that we're being told is not true. And people are willing to accept it because they're afraid of what the change in their mind would be, and the drastic change of perspective. I mean, you look at the Quran, for example, and you see that jihad law and war and all this stuff that they believe in their religion is something that is supposed to be a part of their life when war is among them or apart, like when it's on them. And so it's like you have a group of people attacking this group of people whose religion tells them to then attack back. And then you're like, why all the terrorist attacks? Why did terrorism increase exponentially after 9/11? And people are like, well, they hate us. They hate us because we're free. And I'm like, maybe they hate us because we're blowing up their children. Maybe it's not as simple as they don't like the fact that we have television and we're walking around without burqas on. Like, what if it was something to do with the age-old thing that causes everybody to want to act in violence? Your family members being slaughtered. So, and the same thing. The ex-Israeli prime minister said in an interview that if he had been born Palestinian, he would have fought the Israeli government tooth and nail for his liberty. And I just can't wrap my head around how we have, as a society, that has all this literature and all this history and all this philosophy that's under our belt that we use in our everyday life when interacting with each other, the way that we interact with each other, the morals that we hold. But when it's distant enough from us, those morals become cloudy, and it becomes a lot easier to kind of, diminish the importance of those same morals.
He's making similar claims, right?
Yeah.
Then I'm like, are we standing on the side of Britain now?
Right.
Is Israel Britain and the Palestinians young Americans? Like, that's one of those questions I want to ask people, but then it's like that I would take it as an ad hominem attack. Because you're being anti-Semitic. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm simply looking at our culture and the individuals in this culture who laud patriotism and independence and the founders and all that and liberty, Adams and Patrick Henry and the like. If I look across the sea and see a similar thing in the 21st century happening as it did in the 18th century, what's going on?
Right.
Why are you standing on the side of Britain? And that's why I think it goes into, I make an argument, it's a dispensationalist influence.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, actually. You brought up, like, religion aspect of it. It's obviously heavily a part of the Southern American Bible Belt area that Jews are to be blessed and that we should support Israel basically no matter what.
And
no
Tim matter what.
And Tim LaHaye can be thanked for that a great deal.
Yes.
And the dispensational theology, which is not even backed by church history, is so prominent in a lot of the West, specifically the Bible Belt of America.
And on the West Coast too.
Yeah. So it's this very strange theology that supports this. And again, I don't know why we have elevated that part of our theology to the level that goes past love your neighbor, like, and thou shalt not kill, and the other things that we hold to. Because again, it's like, so are you telling me that if it wasn't the Germans and it was the Jews doing it to the Germans, what would our stance be then? Why is it that this group of people who've been kicked out of like 113 countries in the past 1,500 years suddenly has this, over the past 50 years, suddenly has this massive support around the world? But you were mentioning how we have it through literature, and we have all these different things that support these, these different views that we're not acting on. Like people are aware of the atrocities that are happening. This is what I want to show you, and I'm going to try to clip it. I would like to edit this in to the actual video. We got to figure this out eventually anyways. Might as well do it now, but we'll do it. This is in Yemen. Hold on, let me restart it. This is Yemen. Whoa. Indonesia. This is happening around the world.
Wow.
And so those that ethic and that part of our history that we're brought up learning, it is impacting people, and people are gathering. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to do anything. I would like to say it will, but time and time again we've seen that doesn't result in a lot. But the fact that people are gathering is proof that people are their eyes are open enough to go, this isn't right. This is not okay. And so what we have is this weird divide where we have a group of people of all different parties, of all different ethnicities around the world who are going, no, this is the stuff we learned about in history, and we're not going to stand by and let it happen. And then we have another group on the other side that seem to be, dare I say, brainwashed into going, no, this is not a problem. This is the result of Hamas. Like, that's the response over and over and over. It's like, hey, they're using women and children as human shields, right? The ideology that basically says because of the nature of the tactics that Hamas uses justifies killing women and children, to me, is not only sickening, it's the opposite of what we've been taught.
Yeah.
Because, you go back to any war,
right,
and we were like, that's a war crime,
right,
because you bombed the hospital.
Right.
And you couldn't get by with saying, well, there was bad people in the hospital. You know who Bill Burr is? The comedian? So he sums up the issue with, and I'm gonna clip this too. My goal, I've been wanting to figure this out with the podcast because I'm not sure exactly how they do it. Because I'm using
clips and stuff.
Yeah, I want to add clips in here and there because I think it's a good way to really show people. But this is a great summary of why and how absurd the argumentation that's being used by the mainstream media. And I've heard it time and time again. Literally, there was an interview, a press conference where the person was like, hey, so this is a war crime to kill journalists. We know that. And Israel has been documented killing journalists, assassination style, in their homes, in their cars. So when are we going to, say something about this? And the response was, this is the result of Hamas. That was literally the lady's response, and then she folded up her little notebook and she left.
Wow.
And so, let's see if I can find it here. Bill Burr did a little bit on it, and I don't get my politics from comedians usually, but I thought this was a really powerful way of describing. Well, please let me find it. Should I clap here so you can cut the silence out, Paula?
Sure.
Because it's going to take me a second, and I really want to find this clip. And then we'll wrap it up. All right, so this is what Bill Burr had to say about the whole human shields thing.
Just, I don't know. How the fuck is war still legal in 2024? Can you explain that to me? I mean, as a comedian, I can't call a fat fuck anymore. Yeah, I'm not allowed to do that, but it's still socially acceptable to shoot a missile in the general direction of somebody you're upset with. This is my favorite response. Well, they're using kids as human shields. It's like, well, you gotta work around that. Jesus Christ, if I'm mad at my neighbor and I want to beat the shit out of him, but he's holding a baby, right? I wouldn't come in and try to punch him through the baby. It's just, I don't know.
It's a perfect analogy because the truth is they're using this argumentation to justify literally killing, and the numbers are out. Even if the numbers are even half wrong, I think the numbers right now are 40 or 60% of the killings in Gaza are women and children, and I think it was over 1,000 of those killed were under one. I have watched videos of babies blown up, and I didn't even save them because I was like, I don't want to show that to anyone. But it's like what's happening, like you were talking about the information overload. What's happening in society is that people are seeing war before their eyes. They don't know what to do with it.
Right.
They don't know how to respond, and because the responses of the mainstream that we somehow deep down trust, even though we say we don't.
Right.
There's this mainstream rhetoric that we kind of hold to as a society because it continues to tell us no, shh, it's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Israel is doing what it needs to do because of Hamas, right? It's like, what?
Yeah.
Why? How is this happening? How is this okay? And we set the precedent with 9/11. 9/11 happens, we go bomb a bunch of countries that had nothing to do with 9/11, and we were kind of okay with that as a country. I don't think the vast majority of Americans even really believed.
Well,
a few years into the war, I'm pretty sure most Americans were like, yeah, they may not have been directly involved, but we're going to go to war with them anyways.
Yeah,
because we painted all the Islamic.
And there was a lot of distractions. There was a lot of distractions too. We're overseas. We're playing in the box. That's what we called it. But back at home, you got let's celebrate the troops. We'll still do football games and basketball and sporting events and yellow ribbons and parades. And welcome homers and all that. So you're distracted from the actual things that are actually going on. But it's for your safety and security. So that doesn't happen again.
I'll tell you what really is disappointing me lately, and this is why I'm asking questions. I will say that I believe that Israel is committing genocide. I'm not saying that my opinion couldn't change if because again, media is manipulatable. Like there's a lot of room for manipulation in media.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to be like, I'm absolutely 100% certain there's nothing could change my mind. Now the reason that I'm pretty certain is because when Israel has been presented with these numbers, their response hasn't been those numbers aren't true. Their response most of the time has been they're justified numbers, or that Hamas. It's just Hamas.
So it's happened.
But and so they're not really denying the claims. Because they can't. It's been verified over and over and over. There's a documentary coming out in this next month, May, and it was produced and created by a Palestinian woman over 18 months, and she was documenting the war, and she was killed with her family in an airstrike by Israel 2 or 3 weeks ago, but the film is still supposed to be shown. I'm very interested to see what's about to happen because a film of 18 months, like that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
I don't expect that to be. I expect that to be very influential, and it's going to be spread far and wide very fast if it gets shown at all. See, my question is what's going to happen? Are they going to stage a terrorist attack? Are they going to, somehow halt the film festival from going on?
Yeah.
Because if it's as damning of evidence as I expected it might be, it could be very, very, very hard for them to just, for the whole world to not be like, okay, we got to do something.
Yeah.
But what I've been disappointed by is, and because I respect Peterson so much, his response to all this has been vastly strange to me because he has been basically in full support of Israel from the beginning and has not once pushed back at all. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's a shill, like he's paid for and blah, blah, blah. And he works for Ben Shapiro, so he's obviously like, just protecting his own butt.
Water. Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe. But I respect the guy too much to believe that. I want to believe that he's just in a echo chamber on his social media and that he really doesn't know what's going on and that he hasn't been asked the right questions. He was on Rogan and he pushed a little bit, very subtly, very kindly, because they're friends, but he pushed a little bit against Rogan about having some people on that were anti-Israel. And Rogan kind of diverted the conversation very eloquently away to anything other than that. But I find the arguments by people like Peterson and what is that guy's name? He's an atheist, thinker, very popular guy.
Oh, Douglas Murray?
Douglas Murray.
Yeah. I heard that whole thing, him and Dave Smith.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but he's obviously a strong proponent of Israel as well, and I respect him as a thinker. And so it's like I want to understand where they're coming from because I'm really struggling to get behind what they're saying.
Yeah.
But I generally believe that when they say something, they're not saying it with, no reason.
Right.
So I'm at the beginning stages of researching everything. Right now, I'm just trying to kind of find a bunch of dots, and then I'm going to try to start putting them together and kind of tracking everything. And then once I've gotten more of a comprehensive look at everything, I want to put together kind of a video with more official stories and official, news stories and things like that. Put it together, publish it, let people see it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll do.
I guess my starting, coming to close this, my starting point is this. I look at Israel as a political state.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as a religious state.
Right.
I think there's a segment of the population that looks at it as if David or Solomon were still in charge, and there's a tabernacle somewhere there where they go and slaughter a bull and lamb and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that place is not there anymore. Yeah. This place is no different. It's apples to oranges. This place is no different than Iran. And I make that comparison for a reason.
Right. Well,
I would make the argument Iran is a religious state.
Yeah.
That acts politically. Israel is a political state.
Right. That uses religion as a catalyst or the backbone of what they're doing. But the thing is, their state can't use religion consistently because their state also is funding abortions.
Right. It doesn't even mirror. It doesn't even mirror the Israel of the Old Testament.
What's crazy to me is that I can tell that to someone who's conservative, but if they're dispensationalists, they're like, still got to bless Israel. My father-in-law was like, talking about this one time, and he was like, the passage says to bless Israel. Those that bless Israel will be blessed. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm part Jewish, so how much are you going to bless me? Like, do I get a little money? Like, come on, let's bring it home. But I am like, so the whole thing about Israel being blessed is strange to me because the people that live in Israel, it's really hard to know how many of them actually are even close to being full-blooded Jews. It's very unlikely that the vast majority of them are full-blooded Jews because of the history of Jews. If you look at the history of the Jews and the history of all the things they've been through,
right,
since the time that they were promised that land,
right,
really hard to.
It's really hard
because again, it's about the blood, right? Like that, they push that really hard, especially in dispensationalist circles. And it's like, okay, well, again, even then, let's say they were. What about the Jews in America that are half Jew or a third Jew, like, or a fourth Jew? Like, at what point do you start blessing them, or do they not get any blessing unless they're full-blooded Jew? And if that is the case, then why are you so certain that all these Jews over in Israel are full-blooded Jews? Because they live in Israel? Like, that's absurd. It makes no sense. There's just a lot of willingness, it seems, in society, and I think the partisanness, like the division that we've created in America, has really aided this ability for people to kind of blind themselves to other things they don't want to think about. But we have gotten to the point where we are just consistently, over and over and over, ignoring the points that are being made by the opposition.
Right.
But what is mind-blowing is that the opposition that we all vilify, the Democrats, or vice versa, the conservatives, they're all unified in the mainstream against anti-Semitism. And anti-Semitism isn't what it used to mean. It means if you say Israel is wrong in any capacity, you're an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
And Trump, I believe, is not done. I wanted Trump to win over Kamala because I thought that his cabinet choices would be better and that the damage that he would do would be less than. But now I'm seeing, and I'm not shocked because, but also I don't think Kamala Harris would be doing much different. I think she would be deporting people too, because she's also just as pro-Israel. And so we got Obama. I mean, we have Trump deporting people, students around in Fayetteville in Arkansas. 5 students were deported. It's not going to stop with students, I don't believe. I think that once things ramp up over the next few months, it could be citizens being deported or jailed or censored.
Oh
we have states around the country. I think like 80% of the states in our country have a law that bans funds from the state to companies if they are anti-Israel, like if they're not pro-Israel.
Okay.
So it's weird.
Yeah.
It's a strange phenomenon, and we have only a few people, very few, like Thomas Massey, who are like, no, I don't have an AIPAC guy. Like everyone else has got a lobbyist in their network that they go get coffee with, and Americans are either oblivious to it or completely unconcerned because it's Israel.
Yeah.
While Israel at the same time is committing genocide or whatever they're committing, ethnic cleansing, genocide. They're killing women and children very indiscriminately. There have been doctors that have reported multiple incidences of children being shot assassination style in the head and heart with sniper rounds. So at what point do we stand up and go, enough is enough?
Yeah.
I don't know. All right.
That was a heavy ending.
Yeah. I was going to talk about China too, but whatever.